think most joined that are going to join tonight. Okay. So the tips I give you tonight, you can please pass those on to your fellow classmates, okay, that are not able to join us here tonight, okay, because this is not being recorded, okay. Pass on any information I'm giving you here tonight, because this is an info chat, okay. Grand. Right. So to begin with, I'm going to discuss and give feedback on the CA. Okay, so basically, I haven't corrected your CAs yet. I've had 6 batches of CAs that I have to correct this week, and you're the final batch. So I was going to dig into them here today, but again, I had a funeral to go to tomorrow. I have a funeral to go to, so these things happen. So unfortunately. But I'm going to give you feedback on what I would expect from your reports, and that will give you an idea of general feedback on your own report when you look at it and see where the gaps might have been. Okay. See the marks coming through in the future. Is that fair enough? Okay. So I'm just going to open up the. I'm going to share my screen and open up. You should see the CA on your screen there, okay? So my section there, again, I was looking for you to prepare a written report, and then the first part of that was the possible asbestos types and their potential location within the building. So you should be able to give me good information sources in relation to that. The HSA website, good information sources, and their guidance document on asbestos containing materials has really good information there. But also the HSE UK website has very good information on relation to asbestos containing materials. You know, it even gives you a diagram of a workplace or an illustration of a workplace, and it shows you the typical locations where you might get asbestos, okay? But to find out where you have asbestos in the building, you need to get an asbestos survey done, okay? So that's one of the big things I was looking for you to say, okay? So this asbestos survey should be conducted to produce an asbestos register, which basically lists off where all the asbestos containing materials are in the building. The asbestos survey will be conducted by a specialist to establish the asbestos containing materials in that building. Okay, but again, you should have listed off where the potential sources might be. So I didn't say do an asbestos survey, you lose marks. Okay, so that's where lots of people might lose out. Okay. Next point down, the environmental and occupational safety and health hazards and risks associated with asbestos exposure, including who may be affected. So again, you got to look at it from both the safety perspective or health perspective and the environmental risks as well, okay, for releasing the asbestos into the environment from that building. You're looking at both sides, okay. So again, you've got the health hazards, which are asbestosis, mesothelioma, etc., etc., and you should be, again, everything should be referenced, okay. So should be given good references for all these sources, along with, you know, in the proper Harvard reference style. Okay, you lose lots of marks if you don't provide in-text referencing or you don't provide a reference. In fact, you could be considered plagiarism if you had no referencing throughout your document. It would be considered plagiarism. Okay, and you might get, so that's a big thing there. Okay. So what else did I have to say in that? So in relation to, at the end of that sentence, including who may be affected. So that was the big one there as well. So you have the who may be affected would include members of the public for the environmental exposure, workers then for occupational safety and health, workers, contractors, and any visitors which can include also trespassers. Okay, so that's two. Sound isn't good. Lost the sound there at the moment. Anybody else confirm if the sound is bad as well, or if the sound is okay? David, the sound, if it's only with yourself that the sound problem is, it could be, you might need to log out and log back in again, and that hopefully might solve, it could be a connectivity problem. You're saying the sound's not great with you as well. Better now, folks. It's bad with you as well, Val, yeah? And Anne-Marie. Try and solve that problem. Let me have a look. Gremlins could be striking again, so... Oh. Yeah. Gremlins, Jennifer, yeah, they're killing me. It's okay with you, Shawnee, okay with you, Jennifer. Anybody else finding it okay at the moment? Gerg or what's saying it's okay, so yeah, it could be other. If anybody's experiencing sound problems at the moment, can you please log out and log back in, and that hopefully might solve the problem. And if it's still being persistent, I might have to log out and log back in myself as well. Okay. Might be on the individual side. I'm just going to continue on with my sort of feedback here while people are sorting their internet out. That's fair enough. So, yeah, so the who may be affected from an occupational safety and health perspective will be the workers, contractors, visitors, and even trespassers. If you have people that could break into the premises, could be exposed. Okay. The main hazards are inhalation hazard. You know what I mean, for both workers and public. But also you can have an environmental contamination hazards for the surrounding environment, whether it's the grass, the park, the river, all can be contaminated by asbestos if it's released. Okay, from that. Obviously, it's a public health hazard as well as being an occupational safety and health hazard. Okay. Sources in relation to that as well. Then moving on to sorry, yeah. Okay, sorry, you're back in, folks. Back in, okay, so yeah. So that's what I was just saying there. Sorry for those of you who just joined us again. So again, who may be affected were members of the public, and then the workers' occupational safety health hazard for workers, contractors, visitors, even trespassers. The hazards will be inhalation hazard for workers and members of the public. It's an environmental contamination hazard and it's a public health hazard. Yeah. Then moving on to asbestos monitoring. Again, I would be looking for good reference sources on those as well. Okay. Moving on to asbestos monitoring. Asbestos monitoring, we'll be looking for types of monitoring that should be conducted in relation to asbestos would include compliance monitoring, background monitoring, leak monitoring, reassurance monitoring, and clearance monitoring for asbestos. Should have also mentioned within this monitoring that the occupational exposure limit value for asbestos is 0.1 fibre per centimetre cubed. So again, that's the type of monitoring, and again, all reference. You'll be probably referencing the asbestos containing materials guidance from the HSA in relation to the monitoring. Okay, so that one document would be the reference source for that information. The occupational exposure limit value might be coming from the code of practice for the chemical agents regulations. Yeah, so that's where you get the code. That's the monitoring. Then exposure prevention. You'd be looking at putting in the variety of things if you're looking at exposure prevention. Which will include containment systems such as sealed negative air pressure enclosure with HEPA filters, HEPA filters, a 3-stage airlock, and a decontamination unit, which is for containment. Exposure prevention, then you'll be also looking at methods for preventing dust production during demolition or removal, such as wet removal methods, using a vacuum to vacuum any dust up if it's been produced, like a local exhaust ventilation, and it goes through a HEPA filter again. And then on top of that, again, as your last line of defense, you'll be looking at specific PPE and training for the staff involved, including full face respirator with P3 filter, disposable gloves and overalls and boot covers. Okay, and then the specific procedures in relation to decontaminating. So you might be wearing 2 sets of gloves, disposable gloves, and you have different stages they're taken off. So you know what I mean, the outer layer is taken off, and then you go through maybe next stage, and then another 2 layers taken off. In the same way, you might have 2 disposable overalls on to make sure you're clean, and you never wear your home clothes in a certain area. So the procedures for preventing exposure is very important there. And those, again, the techniques for minimizing dust production or preventing it are important as well. How the asbestos materials are treated is important as well. So the double bagging, wiping down, all that sort of stuff, all that information should have been included. Again, reference. And again, the asbestos containing materials guidance from the HSA would be the reference source in relation to that. Then, moving on. So that'll be a lot of information going into that section there. Moving on then to any specific asbestos waste management, packaging, labelling, and shipment requirements that need to be adhered to when sending asbestos waste to a licensed waste disposal facility in Europe. So it was being shipped directly to Europe. Okay, it wasn't being shipped to another facility in Ireland. It was being shipped directly to Europe. Okay, so that means you needed a trans-frontier shipment of the asbestos waste to Europe. Okay, so the specific waste management requirements for the packaging would mean you have to have UN approved packaging, which, for example, if it was going into FIBCs, would need to be UN approved FIBC containers, flexible intermediate. And again, you'd have all the double bagging of everything associated with handling asbestos as well. The labelling then, asbestos packaged containing materials waste would also have special labels attached to them as well. And there should be ADR labels attached to the packaging in compliance with the shipment requirements under ADR, which includes the UN numbers for the waste as well. Okay? So the requirements there again, you would need a TFS license. You need a documentation associated with the license. It would be a notification form, movement and tracking form, the transport route for the material would have to be approved. Transport documents as well associated would be for the EU would be a container load plan for what's going inside the box container. TREM cards, which are transport emergency cards. Dangerous goods note because it's hazardous goods. ADR classification for asbestos containing materials from a construction site like this would either be UN Class 9 UN 2212 or UN 2590. Okay, and again UN approved containers with placards and labels on the packaging and on the box container. Double bagging and wrapping and wash down and label everything like this being So if it was, for example, the asbestos cement roof could be taken down and double wrapped in high density polyethylene plastic, for example, double wrapped, bagged, too big to be bagged. I also wanted you to refer to specific waste management and other environmental regulations that apply to the shipment. Okay, so they will include the Waste Management Hazardous Waste Regulations 1998, the TFS regulation, okay, including from that the Waste Management Shipment of Waste Regulation 2007, the Waste Management Collection Permit Regulations 2007, because whoever's collecting it in Ireland will have to have a permit to collect. Also, on relation to that, the EPA 2015 Waste Classification List of Waste. It's a red listed waste, and EWC codes in relation to the asbestos would include, for example, 170601, which construction installation materials containing asbestos, and then 170605, construction materials containing asbestos. So they are the two EWC codes that should have been provided as well. Okay, so that's the type of information I was looking for. You would have been referencing the legislation there, and also you might have been referencing Dublin City Council, who are the main regulator in relation to shipment abroad, and the Offaly County Council, who are responsible for issuing waste permits, yeah, in relation to waste. Okay. So lots of references should be provided there in the Harvard's reference style. Okay. Again, in relation to ADR classification, you will be getting that information from the HSA's website in relation to asbestos, and they even have some guidance documents there in relation to ADR classification. Lots of information there. All right. So is that fair enough? Sort of information I was looking for. Quite a lot of detailed information there, yeah. A lot of referencing. I expect a lot of referencing in relation to this, yeah. Will you have your grades prior to the exams? Yeah, you will. Sure, but I'm not able to correct or mark at the moment because I've got to go to a funeral. You know what I mean? So it was a funeral. You know what I mean? These things happen. So I'm out of the country next week on holidays, so I won't be I won't be contactable next week either. Okay, and you won't be able to get your grades next week. Canaries, yes, for some sunshine. So that's where I'm going to. Thanks very much, Jennifer. I know. It's like nice to get away. Now, so that's the CA. So I'm giving you that general feedback. So when you see your mark come up, look back at what I've said to you, and you can see where the gaps were in your own report. Okay. By the way, I'll also be checking your reports in relation to the word content, as in word count. So basically, the max word count is 2,000. I allow you 200 each side. So 2,200 to 1,800 to 2,200. The word count is only from the main content of the report. So it does not include the title page, and it does not include the reference list. So and I also be looking at the Turnitin similarity reports in relation to your reports. So I'll be checking to see if you've got big chunks of information within your report that are copy and pasted from other sources. Okay, and if not, then it's okay. Okay, so I've double checked a few of them there today, and I've seen that most of you are under the 30% mark, which is generally a good sign. But I'd still be checking those around the 30% mark to see if there's big chunks of information that have been copied. Okay. I don't mean by title page, because that's standard for most of you. I'm talking about paragraphs of information copied from other sources. So I'll be checking that too. and then the general quality of the report as well, readability, etc. Right. So that'll be all taken into account as well in the marking. Okay. So that's the CA. All right. Now let's get down to business. Now looking at the exams. Okay, or the exam coming up in January. Okay. So the exam format is you'll have 3 questions on the paper and you must answer 2. So the exam format again is you'll have 3 questions on the paper and you must answer 2. The length of the exam is 2 hours, so you'll have 1 hour per question. Okay. Because of that fact, I expect long, detailed answers to be provided in relation to the questions that I ask. Okay. You need to prepare well your sample answers well in advance and practice them so that you'll be able to produce that in the exam or proctoring online, whichever it is. Okay. So practice. If you write something down, that helps to make that stick inside your head. Okay, that's and you need to be able to practice to see if you're able to get all your answer out within that hour. Okay. So practice is really important. Okay, so tonight I'm going to give you 6 tips. Okay, that you should make a note of, and it's for you then to produce good sample answers in relation to that. Okay. First tip and topic will be discuss the monitoring of ambient air quality in Ireland by the EPA, including a description of pollutants monitored. So there you go, that's the first. Discuss the monitoring of ambient air quality in Ireland by the EPA, including a description of pollutants monitored. Ambient air quality monitoring, again, is monitoring the air that you breathe on the street. It's regular air you breathe, okay? So it's not emissions monitoring, it's monitoring your regular air that you breathe street, okay? In the cities, for example. So the lecture I gave you on air pollution contains lots of information in relation to the pollutants that the EPA monitor. But also go on to the EPA's website in relation to ambient air quality monitoring for further information. Okay. Right. So the question again, Jacinta, is discuss the monitoring of ambient air quality in Ireland by the EPA, including a description of pollutants monitored. So the lecture I gave you on air pollution gives you lots of information in relation to that question. Okay, it discusses all about the pollutants, all right, in the air, and that are monitored by the EPA. But go onto the EPA's website as well for further information. Okay, produce a good sample answer in relation to that. So you could, for example, copy and paste the information out of the PowerPoint into a Word document and then make it into a proper answer and then start to write that a number of times yourself to make it stick inside your head. That'll be the okay. Moving on. Next tip. Okay. Topic 2. Discuss the different stages of an environmental risk assessment process. Again, discuss the different stages of an environmental risk assessment process. The lecture I gave you on environmental risk assessment, that's where your answer is. For that answer is in that lecture. So you need to get all the information out of that lecture from the PowerPoint onto a Word document to produce the full answer in relation to that topic. start to handwrite it out yourselves. Good. Next topic. Topic 3. With reference to containment systems, discuss how surface waters and groundwaters can be protected at an industrial facility where appropriate, using diagrams to illustrate your answer. So I'll repeat. With reference to containment systems, discuss how surface waters and groundwaters can be protected at an industrial facility where appropriate, using diagrams to illustrate your answer. So again, I've given a lecture on containment systems. It talks about various types of containment systems for protecting surface waters and groundwaters, bonding, etc. Okay, I'll repeat it one more time. So, with reference to containment systems, discuss how surface waters and groundwaters can be protected at an industrial facility where appropriate, using diagrams to illustrate your answer. Okay? So basically, in that lecture on containment systems, I've given you loads of diagrams that you can use to illustrate your answer, such as different types of bonds, local bond, remote bond, all that sort of stuff are contained in there, okay? And integral bonding, all that sort of stuff. All right. Again, go on to that containment lecture, containment systems lecture, and copy the information out of the PowerPoint into a Word document. Start to write that information and draw the diagram so to stick into your head. Okay? So that's 3 topics done. Okay? Moving on. Okay, topic 4. Discuss how the movement of non-hazardous and hazardous waste are controlled when shipping them when in Ireland and abroad. Discuss how the movement of non-hazardous and hazardous waste are controlled when shipping them within Ireland and abroad. So I give you a lecture on waste, and probably half that lecture talks about the movement of non-hazardous and hazardous waste within Ireland and abroad. So basically, you need to copy that information out of that PowerPoint into a Word document and again produce a sample answer in relation to that. Okay. To repeat one last time, discuss how the movement of non-hazardous and hazardous waste are controlled when shipping them within Ireland and abroad. So within Ireland, you ship under what's the form again? I've forgotten it. Internal form within Ireland, and then there's the TFS when you're shipping abroad. Yeah. There you go, waste transfer form. Thank you very much, Dara. Gold medal for you. Okay. So again, and again, you should be discussing the regulations that are involved there. Again, go to the lecture. Yeah. And that has all the information you need to know about there. Different authorities involved. It talks about waste permits, waste collection permits, all that sort of stuff. TFS, all that. Right? So produce a sample answer in relation to that, and again, start practicing it. Okay, topic 5. Okay. Discuss the different stages of the wastewater treatment process. Repeat. Discuss the different stages of the wastewater treatment process. And there's a lecture on that. It's all about extracting the information out of that to produce your answer. Okay. Moving on. Topic 6. So we've produced over 20 million synthetic chemicals globally. Discuss how the production of persistent organic pollutants, POPs, have impacted on humans and the environment and how this is being addressed internationally. So, discuss how the production of persistent organic pollutants have impacted on humans and the environment and how this is being addressed internationally. Discuss how the production of persistent organic pollutants have impacted on humans and the environment and how this is being addressed internationally. Again, there's a lecture there. In relation to chemicals in the environment, and a good part of that lecture talks about persistent organic pollutants. Repeat. Discuss how the production of persistent organic pollutants have impacted on man and the environment and how this is being addressed internationally. Jacinta, either or. I'm happy with either. If you find it easier to write in bullets points, that's perfectly fine with me. Like, I have no problem with that. If you remember items by chunks, small chunks as in bullets, that's fine. Yeah, it's that's perfectly fine. Either or. No, like the way the whole point is. So I've given you 6 areas to focus on, Ray. Right. 3 of those will come up in the exam. But I'm not telling you which 3. But if I didn't tell you, you could easily have 12 topics. I've given you 6 areas that you can focus your efforts on. So I expect long, detailed answers in relation to these questions. Okay? It was worth a try, Ray. But sorry. Okay? So I'm helping you here by giving you 6 areas to focus on. Yeah. Says no. Sorry. All right. So there we go, folks. You've got your 6 topics now. It's all about going through those lectures, extracting the information out of the lectures, putting them together into a Word document, and then going and practicing writing them yourselves. Okay. Oh, marks per question. There's 2 questions on the paper, so each question is 50 marks. The paper, that's 100 marks in the paper, so each question is 50 marks. % for each question. No, they're large. As I stated, they're large discussion answers. Do you know what I mean? You can provide the answer in an essay form or in bullet points as long as you give me the information I'm looking for. Yeah, I'm looking for detailed. Yeah, Valanan, I'm looking for detailed information. Okay, so it's really go to the lectures, extract the information in the lectures. If you don't give me that information that's contained in those lectures, you're going to lose marks. Important that you give me that information. If you put Waffle down on a page, you get no marks. Do you know what I mean? So it needs to be focused on what the topic is. And it's very specific. Do you know what I mean? All of those topics that I've given you there, 6 topics, are very specific to can't answer those, which just general common sense. You need to go to the lectures. You need to extract information from the lectures, produce sample answers, practice them, writing them down, and then quick recap on all the questions. So, ambient air quality monitoring done by the EPA. Discuss it. So, ambient air quality monitoring conducted by the EPA. Discuss that in detail along with the pollutants they monitor. Yeah. What monitoring of ambient air quality do the EPA along with a description of the pollutants they monitor. Next one, discuss the different stages of environmental risk assessment process. Next one, containment systems. Discuss how surface waters and groundwaters can be protected at an industrial facility. And again, use diagrams to illustrate your answer where appropriate. Yeah. Next one, discuss how the movement of non-hazardous and hazardous waste are controlled when shipping them within Ireland and abroad. So both types and within Ireland and abroad, and all the regulation that you have in place in relation to that. Yeah. Discuss the different stages of the wastewater treatment process, all the different stages, yeah? And then the last one was discuss how production of persistent organic pollutants have impacted on man and the environment and how this is being addressed internationally. Yeah. So if you go to previous papers, you should see similar questions. Okay. So there you go. You got 6 topics to focus on. It's now up to you to go do your work and practice or prepare your sample answers. If you practice and prepare your sample answers, you'll do okay in the exam. If you don't, you won't do okay. Okay, so it's really okay, folks. So again, wish you all the best luck. Happy Christmas to you all. I won't be contactable next week. You won't be getting your results probably until after I come back from my holidays. But you'll have them before, well before the exams, yeah? So be patient, yeah? And it's been a pleasure teaching you all and working with you all this semester. Quick question before you all go. Can I ask you, those of you that came to the workshop, did you find it very beneficial when being able to work on the CA within the workshop, the individual CA in the workshop? Is that beneficial? Yeah. The reason I'm asking that is I'm doing a course on universally designed learning, which is looking at different ways of helping students to engage more with their assessments. So one way of doing that is by opening it up to the group. So group session at a workshop really can help you, I think. Okay. Yeah, discussions always help, don't they? And very beneficial for people. Yeah. So again, they're great ways of learning. So, whereas if you're just at home working on your own, it can be more difficult, and you might be going in the wrong direction. Yeah. So that's where a group session can be great to set you straight. All right. It's great to meet your classmates, isn't it? Too. It is too. Yeah. Okay, folks. So there you go. Best of luck in the exams. If you study and prepare well, you'll do well. Okay. And wish you all a happy Christmas and New Year. And I don't know if I'll have you next semester. Not quite sure. So I'd say good night to you all. Wish you all the best, and